Please adhere to YouTube's selected guidelines before viewing the content of this video. I do not encourage or condone any products, actions, or behaviors shown in this video. All videos are produced in a safe, professional, and controlled environment. Please do not attempt to replicate any actions performed during the video. All actions are performed by professionals.
Alright, so today I'm going to be smoking a Brazilian Palheiro for the first time, which is a type of traditional Brazilian cigarette that is rolled with corn husk rather than with normal cigarette paper. These are also known as Paiols or Palhas, and while the history of the Palheiro is not the clearest to me, from what I can tell for many years they were generally smoked in rural areas, being hand-rolled most of the time. But these days there are many manufacturers of them with factory production for the mass market, and due to that they have reached every area of Brazil today. From the research I've done, Palheiros seem to, at times, fill a similar market segment to American spirits in the United States, in that they can be marketed as a natural alternative to your standard cigarettes, and I've even seen an article stating that Palheiros have been hipsterfied within Brazil in recent years. But how will they be and what will they be like? That I do not know. But that's exactly why I'm making this video today, and I am very excited to find out just what a Palheiro is actually going to be like for the very first time. I've heard a lot about them over the years. I've been making tobacco videos on YouTube. They have been mentioned time and time again by Brazilian viewers, but I have never had the chance to try any Palheiros because up until now, I had never been to Brazil before, but right now I'm in Brazil. I found some Palheiros and I'm about to try a Palheiro for the very first time. This has genuinely been like 3 years coming. I am so excited to give these a go, to find out just what they're like, to find out if I enjoy them or not, and to let you guys know what I think of a Palheiro based off this one experience at least as well. But what are the Palheiros that I'm going to be smoking today? Well, what I have with me today is a pack of the Paulistinha Classic Palheiros, which are a filtered Palheiro made in Sao Paulo. And from what I can tell, at least, Paulistinha seems to be one of the most popular and well-regarded brands of factory-produced Palheiros on the market within Brazil today. So I'm thinking if any Palheiro is going to give me a good experience for my first experience with one of these, it's probably going to be this pack right here, if I had to hazard a guess at least. Now, before I go ahead and cover the packaging of these Palheiros that I have with me today, I do first off want to go ahead and thank the sponsor of today's video, me. My new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, is available now on Amazon. The poems within this book, they're not good poems, but they are good poems to read while smoking cigarettes. And if you guys are interested in picking up my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, I do highly recommend you do so. As said, it's available on Amazon. It costs $14.99. Highly recommend it. Links are in the description and comments down below. Make sure to go check it out if y'all are interested. Now, with the sponsored segment of this video all done, let's go ahead and quickly cover the packaging of the Paulistinha Classic Filtered Palheiros from Brazil. After that, let's go ahead and get the packaging all opened up, and let's go ahead and take a look at the Palheiros within, see what they look like, see what they smell like, see what the quality is like, and just take a look at them in general. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and get one lit up for the very first time, find out how Palheiros actually are, and once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on my first experience with Palheiros. I'm going to give this variety a rating, and I am going to just give you guys my thoughts on these in general, and that is the plan for the video. Do suppose without further ado though, as said, I should probably go ahead and quickly cover the packaging of these Palheiros right here. Now, this seems to be a more standard, typical style of Palheiro packaging than not. I've bought a few packs over the last week or so I've been in Brazil, and most of the packs I've bought do seem to be slide packs. This is a slide pack, as we can see, and most packs of Palheiros seem to be of a similar form factor. Of course, some with varying like lengths and thicknesses and everything like that kind of thing, but overall a rectangular slide pack seems to be pretty much the standard for a pack of Palheiros. And I have not seen any soft pack of Palheiros so far. They do all seem to be hard packs like the one I'm holding right now. And most of them do also seem to have pretty distinct warning labels on them too. We could see a pretty distinct warning label right here, but there's also a warning label on this side and on the back as well. I'll be covering all of that in just a couple minutes, but first off, let's go ahead and focus on the actual design on the front of this pack of Palheiros. We can see we get a nice gray background. There definitely is some color change going on with the background, some light areas, some dark areas, and a little bit of like some geometric shaping as well. Not exactly sure what's going on with that, but it definitely does make the background look a little bit more interesting than if it was just a flat gray. And so for that reason, I do appreciate that there is a bunch of color change, that there are some dark and light areas, and that there are some geometric sort of lines going all the way around. That's something that I do appreciate. I don't know exactly what the significance of that design choice is, but it looks nice, and it definitely makes the packaging more interesting than it would otherwise be. From a distance, I think you could definitely distinctly tell exactly what these Palheiros are, just due to the logo on the front right there being a little bit more distinct than not, and also due to this emblem in the middle towards the top as well. I do believe that this is the Paulistinha logo right here. It looks like a bunch of leaves kind of put together, but those leaves also have sort of an arrowhead design, I would say, and I think all of these are meant to represent a corn, an ear of corn, if I had to hazard a guess. Like, these all kind of look like arrowheads and like leaves, but with the center being yellow, and then we see some green and some blue. There's no way this doesn't represent like a corn ear or something like that kind of thing. So I think that this is a very stylized take on ear of corn, which is very representative of what these are. These are, of course, Palheiro cigarettes. They are corn husk rolled cigarettes, and so it makes sense for the brand logo, or it makes sense for the logo of a brand that makes these to be a stylized form factor of an ear of corn, and I personally believe that is what we're seeing right there. Below this stylized logo, excuse me, just got caught up on my words right there. Below this stylized logo right here, we can see in black, we get the Palestina text right there. There's a line above, a line below, just says Palestina in the middle right there. And then below that, it just says Palheiros, just letting us know exactly what these are. And then there's a little dot, and it just says Desti 2004, which I believe just means founded in 2004. So yes, Paulistinha is indeed a much newer tobacco brand than, not only having been around for around about 12 years as of the recording of this video. No, not 12 years. That would be 2014. It would be 24 years. No, 22 years? 22 years. 22 years as of the recording this video. Yes, 22 years, not 12 years. 22 years as of the recording this video. So yes, Paulistinha is definitely not as old, as historic as maybe some would make you think, but 2004 is nothing to scoff at. They've been around for a while, and they've definitely made quite the name for themselves in the 24 years that they have been around. Below that text, which is very small, we can see we get the variety name right here. These are, of course, the Paulistinha Classic cigarettes, and so we get some classic text right there in a very nice, shiny, reflective red that is, I would have to say, recessed into the packaging just a little bit like that. That kind of goes up a little bit diagonally. It's in a little bit of a cursive. It looks pretty nice and contrasts very well with the sort of standardized look of the Paulistinha text and the geometric look of the background, in my personal opinion. It's a nice contrast, I will acknowledge. And moving on below that, we can see a descriptor for what is inside the packaging. It just says, Contem 20 cigarros de Palha, basically just saying that there are 20 Palheiro cigarettes within this pack right here. And that's basically what it's saying right there. And that's really all there is to the actual design of this packaging for the actual design portion of the packaging. Of course, we still have this warning label right here. This is a pretty standard Brazilian warning label from what I can tell. I've seen a couple other packs with warning labels like this. Doesn't seem to be anything particularly crazy by any means. Just says com filtro right there, which just means that these do indeed contain a filter. filter. I assume that's on the warning because maybe they want to let you know if there's a filter or not a filter or something like that kind of thing. Not exactly sure. Maybe it's saying contains filter, so you know not to litter the filter. I'm not exactly sure, but it says that on that red background nonetheless. Then under that we get a little bit of yellow right here. Just says "Esti producto causa cancer," which I think we can infer to mean this product causes cancer. It is a tobacco product that you do smoke after all, so that comes as no surprise. Just says "Per de fumar," which I believe just means like maybe danger to smoke. I've got my phone out here with me today, which I was using to remind myself about the history of Palheiros, but let's use it with Google Translate as well if I can. Let's take a look. Let's open up Google Translate. Let's just translate the little warning label I have and see exactly what it says. So what does it say? It just says stop smoking. That's what it means. So it just says this product causes cancer, stop smoking, and then we can see there's like their quit smoking line, just says basically that this is a quit smoking line. They have a little bit of a link as well, and they're talking about like their general, like their surgeon general or their health general or something like that right there as well. And that's pretty much all that's going on with this warning label as a whole. Without further ado, let's go ahead and move on to this side. Go ahead and get all the warning labels out of the way. We can see right up here, it just says do not sell these cigarettes to anybody under the age of 18. Just says warning, toxic product as well. Other than that, it says what does it say? It is being a bit finicky, so let's go ahead and just scan that real quick, see what it says, and select all and display the text. It just says danger, toxic product, and then it just says cyanide hydrate gas is present in this product and also which is also used in chemical weapons, causes dizziness, headache, weakness, and stomach pain. Well, I mean, like, that's kind of what you expect from a cigarette, so I mean, like, hey, I ain't gonna complain, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna complain. But yes, it does say that this contains, I think, yeah, cyanide gas or something like that kind of thing right there. Toxic product, of course, and we get the back as well with a little bit of a standardized sort of color on the top and the bottom, yellow in the middle, a little bit of graphic warning label right there of some guy clutching his heart, and it just says vosa infarta, which I believe just means causes heart attacks, if I remember correctly. But let's go ahead and translate the back as well, so I know exactly what it says. And let's just take a look. It just says, okay, it didn't translate it correctly. It said you infarta. It did not translate that correctly. Let's try that again. I know that doesn't say that. Okay, it's really not wanting to translate this correctly. It's really not wanting to. I am desperately trying to make, I am definitely trying not to make very mature jokes right now. I'm desperately trying not to make any jokes right now. And Google Translate is not helping, let me put it that way. But it just says this product causes mind and other heart diseases, apparently. So it can cause heart issues, heart attacks, and I think is pretty much what that's saying on the back of the packaging. I don't read nor speak Portuguese, though, so it is not something I know for certain. Moving on to the other side of the packaging, though, we can see we get the barcode down there, and we also get some extra information and whatnot as well. Just says Industria e Comercio de Palheiro Paulistinha Ltd. Sao Paulo, and then we just get some stuff about the ingredients and also about the expiration date, which I personally think is pretty interesting. So let's go and translate that real quick and take a look what the ingredients are and whatnot. Let's take a look. So it just says expiration valid or no expiration is basically, oh wait, I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. Basically just says no expiration as long as this product is stored in a dry and aired place. And then after that, it just says ingredients, tobacco mixture, humectants, and corn straw. So yeah, not a lot of ingredients, no really additives besides the humectants, and yeah, that's really all that's going on. And I do find it very interesting that it says basically indefinite storage possible, as long as you store it in the right place, which technically is not wrong for tobacco products, but isn't exactly right either. I've had tobacco products that were stored in a very good spot for 20 years, and they still tasted 20 years old. So I wouldn't quite say indefinite, but I get what they mean. I get what they mean. But yeah, that's really all that's going on this side of the packaging. Moving on to the top, we can see we get the gray background, a little bit of line right there, just says Paulistinha right there in a white with a little bit of a black drop shadow, and we get the exact same on the bottom as well, just with a little bit of a square right there. And yeah, that's really all that's going on with the packaging as a whole. Overall, in my opinion, solid packaging, nothing too crazy. Decent quality, but nothing too crazy, and overall has a very sort of printed paperboard-esque feeling to it, in my opinion. No complaints on my behalf, I gotta acknowledge. Well, is it time for me to go ahead and get this packaging all opened up, go and take a look at the inside of the packaging, and go and take a look at the Palheiros on the very inside? I do think it is time for that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to it. Let's go ahead, pop it up just like that, and we can see there are the Palheiros. Now, when I first bought this pack, I was like, oh no, there's no cellophane on the pack. Do they come with like no cellophane or anything like that kind of thing? And then I popped it up just to see, because I was like, maybe they've just got them wrapped on the inside, and they do indeed. So these have the plastic wrap on the inside of the packaging rather than on the outside, which is a little bit different from what I'm used to, but no biggie by any means. I don't mind that. We can see there's nothing going on the inside of the lid right here, and there's nothing going on the outside of the packaging over here or anything like that kind of thing besides what we already covered right there. They're not utilizing the inside of the slide pack to advertise anything or anything like that. I did already check that by pulling it out fully before the video, and there was nothing at all. We can see all of the Palheiros right there, though. I can pull them out all the way if I so desire, although I will, once I actually get this opened up, be leaving them very much in the pack. But I think what I've got to do is I've just got to lift up like that, and oh, this is actually already all open. I thought I was going to have to like rip it or something like that kind of thing, but no, not at all. Let's go ahead and put that back in, and let's go ahead and get one of these out if I possibly can. Let's take a look just like that. There we go. I have my first ever Palheiro out of the packaging now. I am very curious. Apparently, traditionally, these are made with very strong tobacco. I don't know how strong this is going to be, but I am very excited to find out. We can see, just taking a look at this, we get a filter on that side. Taking a look through it, the filter is very small. I think the filter ends right about there at the top of my fingers, so the filter is extremely small. We get, of course, corn husk wrapping, and this looks very much like corn husk, not processed corn paper. This is corn husk. And we get a little bit of a rubber band or some sort of plastic strap right here as well, which I assume I'm supposed to take off. I'm probably not supposed to smoke that before I like get to smoking. Am I supposed to like take that off before I get to smoking, or what am I supposed to do? I have no idea. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to light this, and I'm just going to move this down as I keep smoking, just so this doesn't like fully unravel. I think that might be how you're supposed to do it, although I can't say for sure, but that's what I'm going to try to do. But overall, look-wise, this certainly is a very traditional, very rustic looking product, I will acknowledge. I don't know how traditional or how rustic looking it really is when compared to a traditional hand-rolled Palheiro. I assume not very rustic looking because, well, it is filtered after all. But to me, who is used to normal cigarettes through and through, this being corn husk rolled, being rolled with corn husk, man, this is pretty cool. This is pretty rustic. This is pretty neat, I gotta admit. It's very thin. It's about the same thickness as your normal standard, what is this, probably about 100 cigarette size, I would say. It's about the same thickness as your normal 100 size cigarette, about the same length as well, although I don't have a 100 size to compare against this today. The filter itself is staying in there very nicely, not falling out or anything like that, nor is this unraveling by any means, but I can say that this is definitely a necessity. I think they might have not used any glue to seal it all up or anything like that, because we could see this is peeling up just like that, and I think that is a design choice, not a bug. It's a feature, not a bug, if I had to hazard a guess. And overall, I gotta admit, it looks pretty good. Let's give it a little bit of a smell. Smell-wise, okay, it's similar yet different to what I have had from more traditional cigarettes, or less traditional cigarettes, just normal cigarettes in Brazil so far, like let's say a Rothmans or a Marlboro Red or something like that kind of thing. Let's smell another one. I just got another one out of the pack. So very much what I'm getting smell-wise is that of, and I assume, of course, the corn husk is definitely in there smell-wise as well. There's no way it couldn't be. But I would say I'm getting that of a chocolate. Oh yeah, no, I definitely have to say, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting a, as far as tobacco goes, I'm getting that of a sort of burly, heavy, sort of dark and milk, sweet chocolate sort of smell, with a little bit of some other stuff going on as well. These are very mild smelling though, probably because the plastic wrap, while it is plastic wrap, it still kind of has been open for a while, so I'm sure some of the smell has dissipated. But yeah, overall, I very much am getting, I would have to say, a much more burly forward smell than not, burly tobacco forward smell than not, with chocolate, both milk and dark chocolate, a little bit of sweetness, almost sort of a, yeah, sort of a creamy milk chocolate, dark chocolate sweetness, I would say, and I do feel like I'm getting a little bit of the smell of corn husk in there as well. No surprise, no surprise. I mean, like, I would only expect to get a little bit of that sort of smell going on in there. These are, of course, corn husk rolled cigarettes. Cigarette paper itself might be designed not to smell or something like that kind of thing, but corn husks, I think it's pretty hard to engineer a corn husk to grow naturally and not smell when you use it as the rolling paper for a cigarette. So I do think I am getting a little bit in that. I do think I am getting a little bit of that in there as well. Get my words a little bit jumbled up, though. I think it's time for some nicotine. I think it's time to try a Brazilian Palheiro for the very first time and to find out just how one is, what one is like, and whether I like them or not. So I'm going to go ahead and take a sip of water real quick, and we are going to get to smoking. I've heard Palheiros are pretty smelly. Don't know how true that is, but I'm very excited to find out. How rough will it be? What will it be like? Will it be super smelly? Will it taste super good? Whew, whew, whew. I'm excited, I'm excited. Well, I think I'm gonna get this one going, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and get to smoking. First ever Brazilian Palheiro. This experience has genuinely been like 3 years in the making. First learned about Palheiros like literally 3 years ago. Let's give it a go, y'all. Let's give it a go. Let's find out just how my first ever Brazilian Palheiro actually is. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. So definitely took a minute to light up. You can definitely tell this is rolled with corn husk. There's a little bit of sweetness, I think, coming from the corn husk itself. And the corn husk itself as well is giving us some fleeky ash. For sure, for sure. Flavor-wise, it's pretty nice, I gotta admit. It's really good. Definitely rougher than your standard cigarette for sure. This is definitely like an 8.5, 9 out of 10 roughness, smoothness wise. The flavor though is so pronounced, and it's like I can tell the tobacco itself is a not super different blend from what I've tried from normal Brazilian cigarettes in Brazil so far. But then the addition of the corn husk really makes for a huge difference. Let's go and test the body real quick. The body. Whew. The body is absolutely massive, super dense. No terribly big surprise there, of course. Corn husk is going to give you a lot of smoke when you're smoking, and so is the tobacco. And there is no perforation on this filter, so you are, as a whole, going to get a very smoky experience, a very dense, thick, large body, without a doubt. Very dense. Very rough as well. Wow. Let me grab my water real quick. I started speaking and not all the smoke was out. That got me good. When you're not talking with smoke in your mouth and you're just inhaling and exhaling, I would have to say roughness and smoothness wise, these are a very solid, like, 9 out of 10. They're definitely a little bit rougher than not, for sure. Very, very, very interesting. Very, very, very unique. And they don't burn quite as slowly as I was expecting. I was definitely expecting these to burn very slowly, I will acknowledge, but that is not the case. These are actually burning quite quickly. And also the corn husk is a lot more stringy than I was really thinking it was going to be as well. I didn't think it was going to be this stringy, but it really is quite stringy as well. Very interesting. So yeah, body-wise, absolutely massive, super dense body. No big surprise there. That was honestly to be expected. Airflow-wise, the airflow is not constricted at all. It's actually a very nice airflow that is wide open, not too wide open by any means, but wide open nonetheless. And I would have to say it's absolutely perfect for this product right here. It burns, the tobacco inside this burns I would have to say, exact right sort of, it burns in the exact right time frame as what you would want for a corn husk rolled cigarette, because of course if you pack too tightly, the corn husk is going to burn faster than the tobacco within. But that is not happening in any way, shape, or form with this cigarette. The tobacco is burning at the exact same rate as the corn husk wrapper. It has now just gone out though, but that has given me an opportunity to talk about some other factors. I'll relight this in just a moment. I'll acknowledge this is quite strong as well. Definitely, like, those just couple hits got me a good buzz. Now, granted, I've only had one cigarette today, but it got me a good buzz, I gotta admit. Yeah, these are definitely pretty strong, solid, like, over 8 out of 10 strength-wise. I can say with certainty this is probably on the level of an American Spirit Gray, possibly an American Spirit Black. This is definitely pretty heavy on the nicotine, and if you want a lot of nicotine from a cigarette in Brazil, I think a Palheiro is probably the way to go. Yeah, overall body is absolutely massive, super dense. The airflow is perfectly fine. It's open, but not too open, and it burns at the exact right amount you would want for a corn husk rolled cigarette. It's packed exactly right, as you would hope. The draw itself is a little bit of a heavy draw at the very beginning when you're first getting this cigarette lit up, but it opens up once you actually kind of get past the first folded corn husk area of the cigarette, and it becomes that of, I would have to say, a light but medium airflow with a nice light satisfaction to it. But really the main satisfaction in smoking experience from this cigarette doesn't come from the draw itself. It instead comes from the nicotine and throat hit, and I gotta admit the throat hit of this Palheiro is quite intense. It's definitely a little bit rougher than not. Definitely, I would have to say, an 8 out of 10 roughness and smoothness wise at minimum. Probably more like a little bit over an 8 out of 10 roughness and smoothness wise. This is pretty rough, I will acknowledge. And I would definitely have to say, like, strength wise, I am getting very much out of like, a little bit over an 8 out of 10, I would say, is about accurate as well. Solid, I gotta admit, solid. Flavor is really nice as well. The flavor I'm getting, and I'm just gonna describe just a little bit real quick, and I'm gonna get this relit in just a moment, but I am just enjoying this so much that I just kind of want to describe everything as I'm experiencing it right now. So flavor-wise, I am getting a sort of, I don't think there's any clove in this, but I am getting sort of like a little bit of a sweet, sort of fruity flavor from this, like you might kind of get from clove. I don't believe there's any clove from this. I didn't smell any, and usually clove smells pretty intensely, so I think that's instead coming from the tobacco. So I'm getting a little bit of a fruity flavor. I'm getting a little bit of a corn husk sort of flavor as well, and I would have to say that flavor is kind of grass-like to some extent, in the best way possible. And I would definitely also have to say I'm getting a little bit of a chocolate flavor as well. I am going to have a second one of these, so I think I'm going to talk more about the flavor with the second one, and I'm going to focus on just getting the general experience with the rest of this first one, but let's go ahead and get back to smoking, y'all. Yeah. I'm going to move my ashtray a little bit closer. One thing I will acknowledge, the ash from this Palheiro, and this might not be the case with all Palheiros, but with this specific Palheiro, the ash is definitely a little bit flaky. So if you have an ashtray, if you're trying to use an ashtray, you can expect it to be a little bit more difficult than not to get your ash in the ashtray. And definitely, we can tell there is a lot of tar coming through this. Look at how much tar there is coming through that. That filter is really small, of course, so it's going to soak up a lot of tar, and that is exactly what it's doing. And it has also gotten quite mushy as well. And towards the very bottom of this Palheiro, it's also getting quite rough as well, going from, I would have to say, around about a low 8 out of 10 to almost towards a 9. Whew. Definitely getting a little bit rough. I would have to say like right on a 9 out of 10 roughness smooth wise might be about right, and is also quite strong as well, I will not deny. Wow. The flavor is really nice though. The flavor is sort of like a fruity, sweet, a little bit of citrus, sort of like apple flavor with a little bit of chocolate in there as well. Of course, no sort of chemical flavor or additive flavor or any sort of icky flavor at all. This is nice. This is solid. But definitely they do go out a little bit. This is definitely something you have to hit every once in a while to keep lit for sure. I don't know how much more of this I really should smoke. I don't know at what place folks set down their Palheiro, but I will try to smoke this to the fullest extent I possibly can. Got to get my money's worth after all. And one other thing I will acknowledge about this specific pack of Palheiros at least is that this was about, I want to say, double the price of your normal like let's say Marlboro Red, if not over double the price. I think I paid 30 to 35 Brazilian reals for this pack of Paulistinha Classic Palheiros, which might be high compared to some places. Where I am in Brazil, I get the impression that Palheiros are not a historical part of the culture here, from what I can tell at least. So it might be a little bit more of a import luxury product than being a sort of standard of the area or an expected of the area kind of thing, where it's going to be a little bit more affordable. So they might be a little bit more inexpensive in some other areas of Brazil, but this pack right here, I can say for sure cost me more than almost an entire liter of alcohol that I purchased. These are not cheap Palheiros by any means. I'm smoking one of the more expensive packs of Palheiros, but that's not to say all of them are expensive. I definitely have bought cheap ones. This is one of the more expensive ones, though. But yeah, as you would hope from a product that cost as much as I paid for it, about 30 to 35 Brazilian reals, I think was what I paid for it roughly, maybe a little bit more than that, which is around about $6 to $7 USD. This is a very high quality tobacco product. The taste is just really nice, and it's similar yet different from what I've gotten from other Brazilian tobacco products so far. Definitely, though, as I get towards the bottom, smaller hits are the way to go. If you try to take really big hits like you take at the very beginning, you are going to very much get a ton of roughness. I would say overall roughness and smoothness-wise, this is very much like an 8 out of 10. I was saying a 9 out of 10 for a moment there, but I think an 8 out of 10 is about right to say for sure. And I would have to say strength-wise, this is like an 8.5 out of 10. It's not quite to the same level as something like, let's say, an American Spirit Black in the United States, but I also have been smoking quite slowly. I would say, if I had to hazard a guess for the amount of nicotine in these, it's probably like 40 to 50 milligrams of tar with probably 1.8 to 2 milligrams of nicotine is my personal guess. So quite strong, but not as strong, and it doesn't quite hit as intensely as you might expect from the strength of it that you actually feel. And I think I'm probably going to leave this first one at that. I don't think I'm going to try to relight it again. I think I'm going to end it right there. That was my first ever Palheiro cigarette from Brazil. Before I go ahead and get a second one lit up, let's talk about how that first experience was. It was really good. It was a really good experience. Yeah, I see why I've heard so many positive things about Palheiros in the past, which I have heard a lot of positive things about them from Brazilian viewers. And thank you very much to all the Brazilian viewers watching this video and that have been watching all the videos in the past for mentioning Palheiros. I didn't even know they existed up until the point where some very kind viewers from Brazil brought them up in the comments section as something that I might want to try in the future. And they recommended some brands. Paulistinha was one of them. And very, very glad to have now smoked a Palheiro for the very first time. Yeah, really solid. Very high quality, unique, nice flavor. Overall, really solid as a whole, I gotta admit. Just a really high quality product with a really nice flavor. Rough, strong, very tarry for sure. Definitely with that corn-husk wrapper, they're very tarry. But overall, I gotta admit, do I like Palheiros based off this one experience? I certainly do. I certainly do. I certainly do like them, I gotta acknowledge. They're solid. They're solid, and I can definitely see myself smoking more in the future. On a routine basis, if I lived in Brazil, I am not so sure about that. Definitely every once in a while, but I don't know if I could see myself smoking them on a routine basis if I lived full-time in Brazil. But definitely as a tourist, I definitely want to experience as many Palheiros as I possibly can while I'm here, so I definitely do think I'll be smoking more Palheiros while I am here. I think I'm going to have to finish off this pack first, but I am very glad to have gone ahead and picked up many different packs of Palheiros that I'm going to be giving reviews to either while I'm in Brazil, or I'm going to be bringing them back home with me to the United States and reviewing them there instead. My first ever experience with a Palheiro, very positive experience, I gotta admit, and no complaints on my behalf. Definitely strong, high quality, rough, and the flavor was much more to my preference than not. Let's go ahead and take a sip of water, and let's go ahead and get another one lit up and talk about the flavor of the Paulistinha Classic Palheiros. I've covered just about everything else I think I wanted to cover about the Palheiros and how they smoke kind of thing. The ash is a little bit flaky for sure due to the corn husk wrapper. They're quite tarry. The body is massive and very dense. Roughness is quite high. They're quite rough. The strength is quite high. They're quite strong. Airflow-wise is perfectly fine. Draw-wise is pretty great as well kind of thing. The throat hit definitely is there without a doubt. Now I want to talk about flavor. I've kind of talked about flavor a little bit, but I want to talk about it more, so let's do that. Let's talk about the flavor just a little bit kind of thing, and let's get back to smoking. Yes, sir, you know what I'm saying? And I am real quick gonna go ahead and grab myself a little bit of a thumbnail as well. Well, hopefully one of those will do as a thumbnail for the video. We will find out. We will find out. Let's go ahead and focus on the flavor real quick. And the flavor of these is very interesting. On one hand, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of clove in the blend, but on the other hand, I didn't smell any, so I kind of don't think there is, and I kind of think that's coming from the tobacco and the corn husk. Very, very, very interesting. Maybe there is a little bit of clove in there. I don't know. It's really hard to tell. Flavor-wise, though, I would have to say what I'm getting is, and I'm just going to kind of describe it as it is, and I'll figure out what's actually there once I think through it kind of thing. What I like to do when I'm trying to talk about the flavor of a tobacco product that I'm reviewing is I like to vocalize it and then kind of narrow down what I'm really experiencing as I think through it as I'm vocalizing it. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. So, flavor-wise, I would have to say the most intense flavor I'm getting right now is that of a sweet, slightly sour, citrus, apple, clove, almost like apple cider flavor with an undertone of a sort of savory, rich, dark chocolate, a little bit of a creamy milk chocolate, and a little bit of a sort of just straw flavor as well, I would say. A little bit of like a sort of grassy straw flavor as well. And that's very much the flavor I'm getting from the Paulistinha Classic Palheiros. Now that's not to say that's the flavor I'm going to get from all Palheiros, of course. There are many different varieties of them. Some menthol, some with flavored pop capsules. I got a pack of those that I will be giving a review to in the future as well. But this is the flavor I'm getting from this one. Oh man, I gotta admit, no complaints. The flavor is so nice. I love that fruity flavor. The more I think about it, the more I think that there isn't any clove. One, I'm not getting any numbing in the back of my throat or on my tongue, which makes me think that there's no clove. And it makes me think that that is coming from the tobacco itself. But it now makes so much more sense. One of the very interesting things I've found about the Brazilian tobacco market is that clove cigarettes are super common. Like they're sold everywhere. Gooding Rams, DeJerem's, LA Bold, Sampornas. They're sold just about everywhere in Brazil. And so it's one of those things that I had heard about before, but I wasn't sure if it was like super accurate for the entirety of Brazil. That is super accurate though. Indonesian cigarettes are sold everywhere around here, kind of thing. They're super common. And I think I kind of see why now. Because if the traditional flavor you get from a Palheiro has sort of a clove-ish flavor tinge to it, even without the clove, I see why clove cigarettes are successful here now. Because of having that sort of fruity, apple, almost clove-esque flavor is sort of the flavor you might expect from possibly a traditional Palheiro blend, and that's what you get from a clove cigarette. It makes so much sense for them to be commonly available here in Brazil. I don't know if that's actually why they are commonly available here. I have no idea, but that totally makes sense if that's actually the case. Wow. Really nice. I gotta admit though, I am smoking this one a bit more slowly than the first one, and since I am smoking it a bit more slowly, it is definitely, well, burning a bit more slowly kind of thing. I definitely will acknowledge. You do not have to smoke these quickly. If you do want to smoke it quickly, you absolutely can. Personally, I can't see myself doing that. This is going to be something to sit back with a drink, whether it be an alcoholic beverage or a soda or a cup of tea or something like that kind of thing. I don't think a Palheiro could be something that I smoke when I walk outside for just like a quick smoke break or something like that kind of thing. If I'm like out at a mall or something like that and I've been in the mall looking at stores and I just need to hop outside for a quick smoke or something like that, a Palheiro would not be my go-to in Brazil. That would be something like, let's say, a Marlboro Red or some sort of standard cigarette. A Palheiro would be something to sit back and relax with. One, due to the strength of them. They are extremely strong. This is, oh man, especially with the first one, this is hitting, let me tell y'all what. But this is nice. This is nice. And they stay lit very nicely as well. Definitely with the first one, I had to relight it a couple times, but I was definitely taking time between hits in the lower portion of the first one for sure, and I think that's probably why. With this second one, I'm kind of maintaining a routine pace, and with that routine pace, it's staying lit very well. And while the ash is definitely still a little bit flaky, don't get me wrong, it definitely is still a little bit flaky. Due to the fact that I am smoking slower, it is less flaky than it was with the first one. I can definitely say, though, I had heard that Palheiros smell very intensely when smoked. That is absolutely the case. This smells very intensely when smoked. You can definitely tell this is a Palheiro. This is not a normal cigarette. That corn husk absolutely makes all the difference. I'm sure it's partially the tobacco blend on the inside as well, but these are very intense smelling. There's definitely some cigarettes that I totally would smoke inside, kind of thing. I'm not generally one to like smoke in my bedroom or something like that kind of thing. If I was to smoke inside, I want a designated smoking room for that, just personally speaking. I'm not one to sleep right next to my bed or something like that kind of thing, or sleep right next to my bed. I tend to try to sleep in my bed, but I'm not one to smoke right next to my bed in my bedroom or something like that kind of thing. But there are some cigarettes that it is pretty tempting with, and most of them are clove cigarettes. Clove cigarettes, just in my opinion, smell extremely good when burned. This is not a cigarette I would want to smoke in my bedroom. This is a cigarette that I would want to smoke outside. No question in my mind at all. I want to smoke this outside. This is not an inside cigarette for me. Yeah, wow, really solid. Wow, that was so strong. Holy crap. This is, the strength doesn't really hit like your traditional cigarette. So for like American Spirit Blacks, the hit is a bit more intense on the head and you can really feel the strength of it. This, on the other hand, the buzz is a little bit different, I assume, due to, one, probably the tobacco blend. The tobacco is just a little bit different from maybe what I'm used to, and also due to the corn husk as well. And due to that, the buzz comes on a little bit more slowly, I would say. but once it hits, it really hits. This is absolutely like 9 out of 10 strength-wise. This is a strong tobacco product. Excuse me, not quite as strong as Nicotina Rustica, but man, this is strong. And it has just gone out. But yeah, I'm actually going to use that real quick. I'm just going to put this down on the side of my ashtray and just give myself a moment because, oh my goodness, that is really strong. The flavor, whew, man. Brazilian Palheiros, not to be underestimated. Not to be underestimated by any means. Very strong. The Paulistina's great quality tobacco product. Man, I gotta admit, no complaints on my behalf. And I am extremely glad to be trying a Brazilian Palheiro for the very first time today. This has been something that I've been wanting to do for literally years. And I'm sitting outside in Brazil right after a little bit of a rainstorm. It was raining all last night. It was raining right before this video. And I'm enjoying one. No complaints on my behalf. Wow. Yeah. Very solid stuff. I'm gonna continue giving myself a little bit of a minute because it is strong. Wow. Yeah. You know, if I was smoking American Spirit Blacks the entire time I was here, I think I'd be chilling, honestly. But I did bring a pack of American Spirit Grays with me, which are like the lighter version of American Spirit Blacks, but I finished those off a couple days ago. So I've been smoking on the Marlboro Reds and Rothman's Reds while I've been here over the last day or so. And those are very solid, and they definitely are like full strength, normal cigarettes kind of thing. But compared to this, they ain't nothing kind of thing. They ain't nothing. This is definitely... I'm giving myself a moment so I don't get nicotine sick. Let me just put it that way. Palheiros. They're not to be underestimated. Whew. Yeah. Well. Let's go and ash that, and let's get a relit. Yeah, once again, the flavor is just, yeah, just really nice flavor. Quality-wise, these are fantastic. These are on the same tier as American Spirits, in my opinion. These are on the same tier as like a really high-quality rolled cigarette that you might roll yourself with a really nice tobacco and really good paper. These are very high-quality cigarettes. Absolutely, in my opinion, worth the price. These are very expensive. By Brazilian standards, though. So I don't know if they're worth the price for the average Brazilian smoker by any means, but for me, they're absolutely worth the price. And this is definitely like, this is something that I think you could have go with like specific coffees, or definitely with like a nice like Darjeeling. This would be good with Darjeeling. This would be good with like Earl Grey, English breakfast. I think it would be best with like Darjeeling or Earl Grey though. But you know, this is like a good tea cigarette, and I think this could very well be a good coffee cigarette as well. Although I'm not much of a coffee drinker, so I don't know what type of coffee this would be good with, but I think it would be good with coffee. Some coffees at least, not all of them. A coffee with a fruity tinge to it for sure. But wow. I don't know if I can smoke this whole thing. I'll be honest. I don't know if I can. I don't want to get nicotine sick, so I might just take another hit or two and call it there, because wow, I am so buzzed right now. Oh my god. This definitely, I think one of them was perfectly fine, but I wanted to smoke a second one. Just to make sure everything was consistent and everything like that kind of thing. I've smoked most of it, but oh my god. Wow, this is like a 9 out of 10 strength-wise. It's not a 10 out of 10. It ain't Nicotina Rustica, but it is strong. This is American Spirit Black strength, no question in my mind. Roughness-wise, it is close to that as well. I'd have to say like an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 roughness and smoothness-wise. 9, very solid, like 9 out of 10 strength-wise. This is an extremely strong cigarette. let's go and speak about the flavor while it's out real quick. Let's go and speak on the flavor. So what is the flavor of the Paulistinha Classic filtered Palheiros actually like? What is the flavor of these right here actually like? I would have to say it's very much that of a sweet, savory, fruity, wet, yet at the same time slightly dry flavor. But mainly it's got sort of a wet tinge to it in my opinion. And I would have to say the flavor is that of a sweet, citrus, fruity, apple cider, slightly clove-esque flavor. Just a very slight clove in there, not much, with, I would have to say, yeah, a little bit of a sort of, oh man, there's a lot going on. And the flavor ain't flat either. Like, it's a very dynamic flavor. It's so much to my personal preference. I like these. I like the Paulistinha Classics. I like them. They're really good. There's a lot of dynamicness to it, so it's kind of hard to say what the flavor is really like, in all honesty. These are difficult to determine. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. So strong though. So strong. I'm gonna give myself another minute. I kind of want to take another hit or two, really think about what the flavor is, try to hit it like a cigar, do a little bit of a retrohale, really try to get a good idea of what the flavor is like. I want to describe it accurately, of course. Yeah, okay. All right. Interesting. See, yeah, there's a sort of fruity apple flavor in there. A little bit of a sort of clove-esque flavor, but I don't think it's actually clove. I think it's just coming from the tobacco and a combination with the corn husk. And then there's definitely like a little bit of a straw flavor in there, a little bit of chocolate. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to take one or two more hits, call that there, go and talk about the flavor. Yeah, let's call it there. Let's call it there, y'all. Wow, yeah, I'm going to put the lid on my ashtray just so I don't try to smoke anymore, because I am buzzed. Flavor. Okay, flavor. I would have to say the flavor, overall, you get that of a sweet, citrus, slightly sour, fruity flavor, a little bit wet, a little bit dry, very savory, sweet, slightly sour citrus kind of thing. That's an overall general flavor profile. Specifics now. I would have to say the most intense flavor I get is that of a sweet, fruity, citrusy, slightly sour, apple cider-esque flavor, almost like hot apple cider to an extent, with a little bit of a sort of clove-esque flavor in there. Just a little bit of tinge of some sort of like spice kind of thing. Not like spicy, like hot spice, just like a spice. And I think that's sort of a clove-esque thing going on. So yeah, it's sort of a, yeah, sort of fruity, sweet, citrus, sour, apple, sort of fruity flavor with a little bit of a sort of spice that almost comes across like clove. Then under that you're getting the slightest bit of a little bit of honey, just a little bit of honey, with a slightly more intense bit of brown sugar. And then you get, I would say, a little bit of a sort of milky cream, a little bit of a sweet, milk chocolate with a little bit of a rich dark chocolate as well. And then after all of that, you're getting a little bit of a hay-like sort of straw flavor from, I assume at least, the corn husk. And that's very much the flavor I'm getting. But it is very much worth mentioning that these cigarettes, the Paulistinha Classic cigarettes, are very dynamic. So depending on what hit you take, you might get more of what I described than other areas of what I described, kind of thing. So one thing I noticed is that for some hits, yeah, the fruitiness might have been the most intense, and that was overall the overarching theme, was that the fruitiness was the most intense, but at times the chocolate could definitely overpower that sort of spice flavor, for example, kind of thing. And at some points the dark chocolate was more intense than the milk chocolate, and the milk chocolate was more intense than the dark chocolate. The Paulistinha Classic Palheiros, they are very dynamic cigarettes. They're very dynamic flavor-wise, and they're very interesting to smoke. They're a very high quality tobacco product. I really like them. I really like them. Can I say, let's go and start covering my final thoughts now that I've talked about the flavor of these right here. Can I say that I would buy another pack of these again, that I would smoke another one of these again, that I would enjoy smoking the rest of this pack? Am I going to enjoy smoking the rest of this pack of Palheiros? Yes, I absolutely am. I would totally smoke another one of these again. I'm going to enjoy smoking the rest of the pack. I'm definitely going to smoke more of these, and I would totally buy another pack of these again in the future. These are great quality tobacco products that I personally find to be really nice taste-wise, really nice strength-wise, and while they're not something I could chain smoke by any means, ain't no way I could chain smoke them. If I was drinking, I think they would be way too much for me to smoke. With a nice cup of tea, man, sitting out on the balcony, like early afternoon like it is right now, they're perfect. They're perfect. These are very solid. I really like them, and I think they deserve a very solid rating of, I'm gonna say it, a 9 out of 10. I'm so tempted to give them a 10 out of 10, but I'm trying to be harsher with my cigarette ratings. There was no sort of icky chemical flavor in there or anything like that kind of thing, but there was a little bit of an off flavor that I kind of noticed at times. It's not like off, it's like a natural off flavor, but there was just a little bit of a flavor that didn't quite match with everything else at some point. I can't quite nail it down, but there was something in there. You know, I'll do a little bit of a compromise. 9.5 out of 10 for these Paulistinha Palheiros. I don't want to give them a 10 out of 10 also because these are the first ones I've tried. These are the first Palheiros I've tried. I don't know how the other ones are going to be. Maybe I'll try a better one than these. But I think a very solid 9 to 9.5 out of 10 is very deserving for the Paulistinha Classic Palheiros. Very, very, very solid quality tobacco product. One that I really like. One that is very interesting to smoke. And one that I'm very, very, very glad to have tried for the very first time today. Overall, based off this one experience, do I like Palheiros? Yes, I absolutely do. Will I be smoking more of them in the future? Yes, I absolutely will. And will I be bringing back some to the United States with me? Yes, I absolutely will. I have, frankly put, genuinely no complaints on my behalf. Palheiros, they're very solid. I really like them, and I cannot wait to try more varieties of Palheiros in the future. Absolutely no complaints on my behalf. I gotta admit, none at all. I've had a great time today. This has been a really interesting experience, and I have no complaints. None at all. Palheiros, they're very interesting, and I see why folks have been talking about them just so much over the last couple years or so. Brazil has some great quality tobacco products. I ain't gonna lie. Brazil really does have some great quality tobacco products. These absolutely included. I think that's just about all I wanted to say, though. Yeah. Palheiros, they're solid. They're solid. Appreciate all y'all watching this video today, where I smoked a Palheiro, a corn husk rolled cigarette from Brazil for the very first time. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching today's video. If you guys have, of course, like, subscribe, and make sure to check out my new poetry book, Poems to Read While Smoking Cigarettes, linked in the description and comments down below. Make sure to go check it out. Highly recommend, of course. It's available for $15.99 USD on Amazon. Make sure to go pick it up if you're interested. Appreciate y'all watching today's video. Hope you guys have enjoyed. As said, like, subscribe, check out everything in the description down below. And until the next one, y'all, stay safe and peace, and have a great one.